Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I'm sharing a project that I made for a Inspire Create Challenges design team, and this is Case the Designer. So there was a lovely Z fold by Karen Farker that we were asked to case, so this is my version of it. Double Z fold, as you can see there, and hers had dancing hippos and used some DSP that I hadn't got, so I thought I'd create this one using the lovely textured floral, and I'm really pleased with how pretty it is. And it's just to show that, you know, you don't always have to have the DSP to create your own texture backgrounds. So it had some striped paper, so I've created my own striped panel here. This one's using the lovely splatter stamp, and of course the beautiful flowers from Textured Floral as well. So that's what we're going to start with. So let's crack on. So the stamp set is photopolymer, and it is a distinctive one. And I've already popped my stamps onto blocks, so I'm going to do some stamping before I die cut those out. And I'm using the sort of smaller flowers that are in the set. There's this lovely one here, almost like a sort of a daisy effect. There's another little smaller one, and they have dies to cut them out. You see here, so there are some dies to cut out the floral images, and then there's some extra foliage images as well that you can use. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so lots of stamping to start off with. A couple of hints and tips then with this. So these are distinctive. So if you've got particularly juicy ink pads, you might need to kind of what I call dry them out slightly. And what do I mean by that? Because the way that Stampin' Up! Have designed these, and it's a great design, if you look when you open them, it means the ink is the ink pad is actually upside down, so you've got all the ink at the top, which is great until you want something that's distinctive, where you want it to be slightly drier. So I'm going to use my soft sea foam, and what I do with these is really simple, she says. And if you want to actually get rid of some of that excess ink without mopping it up, because you don't want to lose it, just take a spoon. I just happen to have a plastic one here. I've usually got a metal one about, but just go over the top of your ink pad a couple of times and press that down, and what you're actually doing is sort of pushing the ink back down to the bottom of that ink pad, which is just something you might want to do just for these odd occasions if you've got juicy ink pads, and quite a few of mine are quite new. So I know that my bubble bath is a little bit juicy, so I'm going to do the same then. Hopefully you can see that changing colour slightly and just becoming slightly lighter. Then just wipe your spoon off in between on a chamois, and that way you're not then losing any ink. You're just sort of pushing it away from the surface so you can do your stamping. So hopefully I've got a really pretty, and I've got that distinctive texture coming through. Okay, so I'm just going to pop, those are my leaves I'm going to use. Pop that away. I'm going to, for this time round, I'm actually going to use my Highland Heather as a change as well. So I thought that would make a nice, it's a lovely colour, just using those subtles ranges in there. I'm just going to pop that. This is the kind of stem of these. So I'm going to grab the stem. I'm going to use my Highland Heather here. I'm hoping that's not too inky. And I'm just going to hover over the top there and line up those flower images, she says optimistically. There we go. So like my Highland Heather could do with a bit of pushing down as well. And then I've also got some lemon lolly, so I'm going to stamp some of these other flowers and then use the lemon lolly in the centre just to add a little bit of depth of colour as well. All complete with dog hair on that one. So I'm going to just do a couple of those. Grab my lemon lolly and just pop that in the centre of those flowers. And then I'm going to do another couple of these smaller flowers as well. And I'm going to stamp them in a range of fresh freesia. And then I'm going to do a couple more in Highland Heather as well. There we go. So I've got quite a range of flowers now to choose from. So the next thing is pop my ink pads away so I don't get any more inky than I am already. And pop the dies onto those to get those cut out. And what I like to do is just rough cut these out so that when I put them through, I can make sure that they're well spaced out and the dies aren't going to overlap with each other. It also means that where I'm doing more than one, you don't get any texture going onto those either. So I'm just going to do some of each of those and I'll be back in a moment. See, what I've done is just lined up my dies here over the various floral images, and I've just used a bit of post-it note tape to hold those in place. I'm going to pop those onto my cut and emboss plate and get those die cut. So once you've die cut all of those out, just pop those out and start to arrange your kind of panel. Now you'll see on some of these, hopefully I've got like a little dot on those, and what I do is I have a corresponding dot on the stamp there. Hopefully you can see. That means that I can stamp that upright, and then likewise with that dot there, it helps me line that up with the top of the flower. Just saves a few seconds each time just lining that up, and it's easy enough just to do with a stamping blend, so that you've always got that you know, easy to see which is the top of the stamp and which isn't. Okay, so there we have my panel. Now I've got a small panel of basic white here, and this is just 8.5 by 6 centimetres. I have done the dimensions in inches, which you'll find in the link to my blog. And what I've got here is my birthday blooms just for you, and I'm going to pop that in some Highland Heather. I generally use a slightly darker colour for the sentiment, just helps make it pop. And I'm stamping this first. Like so, because then that shows me what space I've got to create my sort of arrangement. And with these, I'm going to pop these up on dimensionals. I've got some mini dimensionals here. And as usual, those of you who watch me will know that I like to shape my flowers a little bit. So just use your bone folder to add a bit of shaping, and then you can pop some dimensionals sort of down the middle section. And that allows it to kind of curve around each side. So I'm going to pop that just in the top sort of corner. Have it overlapping slightly. That always creates quite a sort of pretty effect. I'm using the smaller flowers. I've got one of the large flowers, but I'll just show you that's quite dominant on a smallish panel like this. So that's one I stamped earlier that I'm just going to pop in my usual little CD pouch just to keep those pieces around, ready for the next time. So I'm going to pop a couple of flowers, and as I said, I stamped these in both fresh freesia and Highland Heather, and I'm just going to pop those. I think maybe, yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to pop a bit of foliage in there as well. So my foliage I'm going to glue flat, so I'm just going to pop a bit of Tombow onto the back there. Oh gosh, my Tombow's obviously quite full and quite, yeah, got a lot of adhesive in there. So I've only put it on that central part, so I can just pop that. And again, have it overlapping slightly, it just creates a bit more dimension. And then just pop the flowers around. As well. So I'm just being careful not to kind of obstruct my sentiment, she says optimistically. So that's going to cover up that little sort of gap at the bottom there with my flower. And then I'm just going to pop one more on the end there. And by popping a single one, it allows me to overlap it, but still retain that space. So there we go. So I've got a couple of extras. As I said, those just pop back in my stamp case. So I've got a few, you know, and apart from throwing them everywhere, and then you can obviously just add those onto projects as you need and make some extras. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is create that back panel. So this is really simple. I'm just going to take my splatter stamp, technical term of course, and I'm going to repeat stamp in 2 different colours, all on that background. Now with the card, you'll see this part's going to be covered up, so you know, if you don't need to stamp all the way over it. What I am going to do is stamp the edge of this piece as well, because we want that to just peek out a little bit as well. So the first colour I'm going to use is my Fresh Freesia, and then I'm going to use my Highland Heather in this case. So I'm going to do my lighter colour first. I'm just going to pop that on the edge, and then, and you'll see I'm just rotating around, but leaving kind of gaps so that I can come in and over stamp with my other colours later on. And a quick wipe, even though it's a lighter colour, don't contaminate your ink pads. So you can just come in, and it doesn't matter if you go over, because with these splatter stamps they overlap really nicely anyway. And that's, if you think where that's going to be, that should be absolutely fine. So pop those to one side along with our other panels. So those are our stamped panels. Now we're going to create that front panel. So this is the front panel which I have already cut the card for, and this is 7 by 10 centimetres, and it's just basic white. And what I'm really easy to create your own. I've got a couple of strips, which are 1/2 inch, 1.2 centimetres of my Highland Heather, and then I've got some strips are exactly the same of basic white. And to get them so that they look reasonably aligned, I'm just going to mark, so that's 8 centimetres, I'm just going to mark 8 centimetres down on this long edge as well, and that's just going to create me a bit of a reference mark. that when I glue my first strip, I'm just going to come diagonally from that top corner across. Now you can do your diagonals whichever way you want. So there's my first one, and then I'm just going to alternate with my basic white and just butt that up, and just make sure you're coming over the edge of your card, like so. And then once you've done 3 or 4, you're just going to flip that over and just snip the excess card from the reverse. So you're not cutting that background piece of card at all, you're just trimming the outer edge, like so. I'm going to get my gluey bits. Now if you wanted to, you could in fact, now you've got a few pieces on, to make it easier for yourself, you then add the glue to the card, so you can pop that on and you then don't get lots of glue bits. I should have turned that the other way because I could have lined that up the edge. Because obviously when you put the glue onto the cardstock, then you sometimes find that you've got a bit of overhanging, which is gluey. But once you've done the first few, then you can pop it over like this. Like so. That bit doesn't, obviously it's a little tiny bit, doesn't want to stay on. Again, just come through. And obviously just give your scissors a good clean afterwards, because they will get a little bit on the gluey side as well. Another white layer here. So there's 2 long strips of Highland Heather, say just 1.2 centimetres. I think it was probably about by 21. Certainly gives you plenty to play with. And it's a great way of using up any of those scraps that you happen to have kicking around. And look at that, I've got a tiny little bit. Why is that always the way? Okay, put a tiny drop of glue on there and a little teeny tiny bit. Okay. And those last little bits. And again, we're just going to, I'm just going to let that one dry a little bit more actually. There's always one bit. It will stay. Here we go. Okay, so there's our panel. Just clear everything away. Okay. So now we've got, you can see here, we've got our panel for the inside, we've got our front panel, we've got our stripe panel, and we've got our stamp panel. So all that remains is just to create those 2 Z folds. So you're going to need 2 pieces of card. This first piece is 29.6 by 10.5 and this second piece is 25.4 by 6.5 as well. 11.5 by 4 1/8, 9 7/8 by 2.5. Now our long piece we are going to score at 14.8 and 22.2. So, and this smaller piece you're just going to score at 9 centimetres from each end, 3.5 inches. Fold and burnish those score lines, just make sure they're really nicely lined up. Before you fold those back on themselves. So see, we're creating that little Z with a little stick out panel. Do the same again, so always we're going to fold in line with those, in direction of those score lines before we fold back on ourselves. Oh, and I've actually made this one too big. Okay, so what size should... That's probably why I was a little bit out with my measurements. Okay, so this should actually be 7 centimetres by 10 centimetres. Goodness knows what I was doing with that. I've obviously... But the nice thing is once it's glued, we can go, pop it in your trimmer. 7 centimetres by 10. There we go, I'll cut off that tasty little corner that didn't want to. So you might just need to go over a couple of times. There we go. Okay, so now I've cut that to the right size. Goodness knows what I was playing at with that. You can add that on to the left hand side there. Not so sure, I think I prefer my original maybe. The Highland Heather's quite dark. I don't know, which do you prefer? Do you prefer those stronger colours? I do love Fresh Freesia and Bubble Bath together. Not sure what it is about that colour combination, but it certainly kind of calls to me as a combination. So pop that in place. Now the next piece, what we want to do is centre that, as you can see there. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of centering it top and bottom and to each side as well. And then I find the easiest way then is to add my adhesive on the left hand side there. Mark it if you want, because obviously you don't want to come too far across. And then add your adhesive to the back there as well. So that's nice and even, like so, and then we can just add our layers. I find Tombow better for this because obviously you don't want to press down with a tape runner on that front panel once you've got that dimension. There we go. Out of practice, clearly. Not awake today. There you go. Right, once you've stamped the correct piece, that's the right size, then quite simply add it into the centre there. Right. Okay. So there we have birthday blooms in Highland Heather and Fresh Freesia, and Bubble Bath and Fresh Freesia. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon. If you'd like to purchase any of the items you've seen today, pop along to Stampin' Up, select me as your demonstrator, and we were using textured floral. Please use the host code, then I can send you a thank you. Thank you for watching. Please, if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up as well. Thanks for watching. Bye now.